to be on? Okay. Are we supposed to be on the camera? Because the last two times I did, I was, but I don't know if that's a necessity.
We can be. I don't mind. Here, let me just turn mine on.
Okay. I'll turn it down myself.
Okay. Mm,
Mhm.
Okay.
Available? All right. All
Okay.
right.
Perfect. Do you want to just go ahead and start and then I can just
Yeah, sure. I'll just pull up the questions really quick.
Mhm.
'Cause I don't know where that is. Okay. Okay, am I still visible because I just switched the tabs,
Okay.
the desktop screens. All right, diving in. The very first question is on summary and assessment. Who is or are the players involved? What is the issue or problem or challenge faced by the firm or protagonist? And who or what is responsible for the crisis faced by the firm or protagonist? So, do you want to go ahead?
Yes. So for the players involved, it's the Cuban government, it's the joint ventures, the Cuban consumers, tourists, and Nestle. Hell.
Yeah. So, for the summary for all the questions, again, I would say the main players again are definitely Nestle and their Cuban government partner Coralisla and through the joint venture called Coralac and the Cuban government itself and Copilia. That is the beloved local state-run ice cream brand that costs basically nothing per scoop.
Mhm.
And the core challenge Nestle faces is trying to run a consumer goods business in one of the most restrictive environments in the world, with no advertising and no pricing freedom, and as well as a government partner that can renegotiate the deal after 15 years, and a currency system that prizes most ordinary Cubans out of even buying the product. So, and honestly, I put the blame less on Nestle and more on Cuba's political economy. That the dual currency setup alone is brutal, where the government pockets the difference between what Nestle pays workers in CUCs and what they actually take home in CUPs. And one researcher literally called it the world's heaviest tax on labor. So that's my take on it.
Yes. Okay, so for me, I thought one of the issues or challenges is Nestle trying to determine whether the like investing with Cuba would be successful for them, especially with like all the government control. They had issues with the supply chain, and then I know the consumers are very limited. So that was to me like the biggest issue. I would say the main person involved is again Cuba's economics and like political view.
Hmm.
Again, just because of the supply chain and the limit that each consumer has to purchase. How would I characterize the market environment? I would say Cuba offers opportunities because there's a limited foreign competition, but it's also a high risk because of the regulations and the government oversight. And
Yeah.
then, did you do number five? Why it's successful?
Number five.
That's where I'm at right
Okay. I'm going by the questions that were listed in the assignment instructions. So, like how they were listed, first being the summary and assessment, and analysis and evaluation, then recommendation and action, then application.
now. Mhm.
So, do you want me to go that way?
Yeah, we can go that way. That's fine.
All right. All right. So again, the second question is, how would you characterize the market environment for foreign firms in Cuba? And has Nestle's ice cream business in Cuba been a success? So you want to get started?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so I would say how they position themselves for future success is just to continuing building relationships with Cuba's government, improving and investing in local operations and trying to expand the most products that will appeal more to consumers. I would say this, how does this apply to other companies? I would say companies entering the foreign market must understand just the political risk, government
Mhm.
regulations, and conditions before investing anything. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much how I answered that part.
Mhm. All right. So do I get started with my
Mhm.
take?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So for the market environment, I would say it's high risk and structurally not designed for consumer goods companies. Only 7% of foreign businesses in Cuba are even in food sector, and most foreign investments they are in tourism or resource extraction that doesn't need a real consumer relationship. So, as for whether Nestle succeeded, I think yes, but it depends what you measure. So,
Hmm.
financially, insider sources put margins around 15 to 18%, which is actually in line with Nestle's global benchmarks. But what really stood out to me was the brand recognition. So by 2012, they had 60% assisted recall in Cuba, almost on par with Capelia, and were the most recognized foreign food brand on the island, all without being able to run a single ad. So that's the real achievement, given the constraints we're operating under.
Hmm. I think just for my closing statement overall, I think Nestle made a smart decision by entering Cuba early, just
Mhm.
because the company faced a lot of challenges from the government's regulations and the economic conditions, but it gained a valuable experience and a strong brand recognition. I think this case will show that, like with other companies, to always evaluate and just kind of before jumping in and investing is to really go into like market strategies, try that way you can be the most successful and expand.
Yeah. All right. Moving to the third question, recommendation and action. So, how can Nestle position itself for future success in Cuba?
Um, I think that they just need to continue to build relationships with the
Mhm.
Cuban government, and then investing in local operations. Again, that way they're able to sell the most to consumers.
Mhm. So for me, I guess I think going forward, Nestle's biggest priority needs to be protecting its first mover advantage before the American companies pour into Cuba following the 2014 normalization announcement and the brand recognition and distribution network they have built, the 1,000 plus branded coolers, and the hotel and retail relationship that erodes fast once bigger players arrive. So I would also say like they need to go ahead of currency unification by developing smaller and more affordable product formats now. So they're ready when the domestic consumer market opens up. So they actually did something similar in the US, where launching smaller cup sizes drove 35% sales jump in 6 months. So that same playbook could work well in Cuba as well once purchasing power expands. So that's my take on that.
Mhm.
You want to add into it anything?
Um, no, I think you covered like everything perfectly. Yeah.
All right. So should we move on to the last question?
Yes.
All right. So this covers the application. It goes, how might the lessons learned from this case apply in other situations or companies or industries? And what lessons from your week's readings applied to this case?
I would say the FDI, the foreign direct investment, joint ventures, the politic risk, the market entry, and the international expansion. It was like a lot.
Mhm. All right. For the application, I think the lessons here go well beyond Cuba.
Mhm.
Any frontier market with political volatility, restricted media, and limited consumer purchasing power has the same basic dynamics,
Mhm.
whether that's Myanmar, parts of Africa, or post-sanctions markets. And the core takeaway is that you have to adapt to local constraints rather than forcing a global template. And Nestle cutting down to three flavors and standardized containers sounds like a step backward, but it's exactly what made their distribution consistent and their brand trustworthy. And then next, like connecting it to this week's readings, the international product life cycle fits perfectly. Cuba is an early stage market, so you simplify and build presence first rather than launching your full premium lineup. And the joint venture entry mode discussion is really central here too, because it reduced Nestle's risk and gave them local knowledge. But the trade-off is a government partner holding renegotiation power, and that tension runs through the whole case. So that's for me.
Yes. That was the last question. Was there anything else we had to go over?
No, I
Okay.
guess that was it.
Okay,
So we covered almost everything.